This is the WTF Bach podcast.
It's Evan. It's just a quick notice here as I'm not at my usual setup, so please pardon the sound quality. Today I learned that this week Peter Schickli died. Peter Schickli was more famously known as P.D.Q. Bach, and he and Victor Borge were my idols in terms of taking classical music and adding humor to it with the goal of making this high art a more welcome environment for the non-initiated, we could say. P.D.Q. Bach, obviously the name, but before I was WTF Bach, P.D.Q. was in a roundabout way my inspiration for this podcast, or at least the momentum behind it. Around 2006 or so, I was still in conservatory. I was doing, somehow, it just happened, I was doing these comical performances, writing, I suppose, funny fugues, doing some shtick, some Victor Borge shtick on stage. And someone saw this, and they said, let's do a television show. I work in television. Let's do a show in the vein of Borge and P.D.Q. Bach. Let's make humorous introductions to classical music for the layperson. So I was actually walking around in the streets of New York City with a microphone and interviewing your average passerby about classical music. We made a pilot episode. It didn't get picked up by the networks, but they did say, you've got a nice voice. I mean, they might as well have said you've got the face for radio. And we think you should do a podcast. I wasn't interested in that, but now here I am some 18 years later. And it was around 2016 when I was talking with Gabby, the lovely lady whom you hear on every episode. I was talking about the world of classical music with her. I was talking about Schickli and P.D.Q. Bach. And I said, the world just needs a new P.D.Q. Bach. It needs something in your face, like a WTF Bach. And she just jumped and said, do it. So I thought I'd give my listeners here a way into his life and work, and clearly give a shout out to my predecessor. And in this episode description, I'm going to put a bunch of links to Schickli's work, and for that matter, to Victor Borge, for those of you who don't know him as well. So yes, thank you, P.D.Q., for your contributions to classical music, for injecting some laughter in this often too serious world, and thank you, the listener, for being here.